Hello everyone, if you're watching this, you're probably enrolled in PSTAT 193 with Aaron and myself. So this video will be a quick how-to guide for setting up your machine for this whole course. We're going to need to download and install RStudio, of course, it's a class about R. Then we're going to download and install Jupyter, as well as the R kernel for Jupyter, so we can run our R code in the Jupyter notebooks. Now, down below in the description, you'll see a lot of links. The first four are for downloading R, RStudio, Anaconda, which has Jupyter and Python. We'll get to that in a minute. And lastly, that kernel I mentioned a minute ago. So first things first, click on that first link and you'll be redirected here. Choose your operating system. If you're doing OS X, click that first link on the next page. Windows, same thing, do that first link. And lastly, if you're on Linux, on the next page, choose your flavor of Linux and then follow the on-screen instructions. Now, once you've got R downloaded and installed, you can check that it's functioning properly by going into your terminal, or if you're on Windows, I believe it's the command prompt. Go ahead and type in the command R, uppercase, one letter, and you should be in R. Now we can see here, we can do just call it 3, and it looks like everything is working great. So now we can leave by doing quit as a function, save workspace image, I'm going to say no, and now we're out of R. So R is up and running. Now, once we've got R downloaded, we're going to move on to RStudio. It's the widely popular editor for R. It's fantastic, and if you haven't updated your RStudio since November 1st, I highly suggest doing this step and updating RStudio because they made a lot of upgrades for version 1.0.44. It's absolutely fantastic. Lots of new upgrades on that. So once you get to this page, scroll down a little bit, go to this bit right here, and find your operating system. Windows, OS X, Ubuntu, and Fedora. So go ahead and choose your operating system. It should download an installer and follow the instructions on that installer. As you can see, I have RStudio already downloaded, so you can check that RStudio is functioning, as you would guess, by just clicking that icon and seeing if it runs. Excuse me. And as we can see, it does. Print working. And it's working. Perfect. Now, the next bit, Anaconda. Now, Anaconda, it's the third link. If you click that one, you'll be redirected to this page. Now, Anaconda is a collection of libraries, modules, for data science. Very popular modules and libraries for data science, for Python, R, and Scala. Now, included in there is Jupyter Notebooks, and that's what we're going to use to teach R this quarter. So once you come to this page, scroll down a little ways, and you'll see here we have download for Windows, OS X, and Linux. So if you're on OS X, click the first one here, Python 3.5, unless you're very committed to 2.7. So go with the graphical installer unless you're comfortable on the command line. And same thing for Windows, do 3.5. And Linux, if you happen to be on a Linux machine, go ahead and do the graphical installer. Great, now we can check that Anaconda is downloaded by coming into our terminal and putting in the command conda, C-O-N-D-A. Run that guy, and you should get this big print statement in your terminal. This means that conda is running. Your computer recognized the command, and it was asking you for more usage on there. Now, if you got something, like let's say I misspelled it, Aconda. Now, if you inputted conda, as I just did, and you get something that looks like this, where it says conda, command not found, that means that your laptop, machine, desktop, whatever you're using, did not recognize Anaconda. So go back and troubleshoot that. Use Google, it's your best friend, and try to get that sorted out. Now, our next and final step is going to be setting up the R kernel for Jupyter. But before we get there, we should check that Jupyter is up and running. So enter the command Jupyter Notebook. May take a minute, and it's going to redirect you to your default browser. Now, let's go further and check. You can come over to this new dropdown. You won't see R yet because you probably haven't set that up already. Let's do a Python 3 notebook. And we can check if this guy is working. And you can run this cell by doing Shift-Enter. And it looks like everything's in order, at least from what we can see so far. Perfect. So I am going to close out of Anaconda. Now this is important before we set up the kernel. Come back to your terminal, do Control-C to shut down Jupyter. It'll ask you if you're sure, hit Y for yes, and hit Enter. You can also do Control-C twice. If you're in a hurry, you can just jam Control-C and it'll shut down. Great. Now, Jupyter, if you're curious, it's spelled just like we see here, Jupytr. The Ju stands for Julia, the Py stands for Python, and the R at the very end stands for R, the programming language. Now, it doesn't come set up ready for R out of the package. We have to do a little finagling here to get Jupyter set up for R. But luckily, when you click the link and you're redirected to the GitHub page for the R kernel, scroll down just a little ways and you'll see installation. And it's just 3 lines of R code. So we'll do it one line at a time. We're going to install these packages. I'll open up RStudio. We're in the console right now. Don't start a script. You'll see the scripts are up here. I am in my console down below. And I'm just going to run that first line. And what that is doing is downloading these 5 packages right here. And next, we're going to use the DevTools package. Because this package of code here is not on CRAN, the Comprehensive R Network. So our next line is going to be to use the DevTools package. If you've never seen this before, this DevTools : and the function install GitHub. Install GitHub is a function of the DevTools library, and so we're directly accessing that by using the : and narrowing down this function to the DevTools namespace. We run that guy, and it may take a minute. So this message right here is because I have already installed the R kernel, as we saw a minute ago when I was on Jupyter. So that will run for you guys, and then your last bit of code is going to be from the IR kernel package. Again, it's the same sort of syntax we saw. Install spec is from the IR kernel package. Now, run that line of code. I am not going to right now because I've already run this bit of code and I don't want to mess with my kernel since it's already up and running. Now, after you run those 3 lines of code, your R kernel should be configured for Jupyter. It's that simple. But we need to check. So let's open up Jupyter one more time. We just used those 2 arguments, those 2 commands, Jupyter Notebook. And now when you go to New on the drop-down menu, you should see R. Now we can do a check, a more advanced check than before. Do install.packages, and we can do ggplot2. Do Shift-Enter to run that. My next video will cover the basics of running Jupyter. This little asterisk right here means that it's running right now. So it's running through the process of installing ggplot. And of course, I already have ggplot installed on this machine, so if anything, it's just updating that package. Now, if you get hung up on any of these steps, like I said a minute ago, Google is going to be your best friend. Google what step you're stuck on. If the command line, for example, if conda is not registering, if it's not doing anything on your terminal, try Googling something along the lines of Anaconda not responding, and then your operating system. Narrow it down because there's a difference between Windows and OS X, as we all know. Great. And so we can see here that install.packages ggplot2 worked, and it worked fine. Great. So now everything is set up for the class. The last bit is going to be to download the materials for this course. Now, I highly suggest that if you're not already comfortable with GitHub, that you make an account and set it up so that way you can clone the repository. That way, if Aaron and I make any updates to the course materials, you can just do a git pull and pull those updates without having to re-download every file in that repository. But if you want to take the shortcut, you can just click this green button right here. This is the repository, R tutorials. And right here, all you need to do is download zip. Click that guy and it'll download a zipped folder, extract the contents, and then you'll have all of these notebooks, the data, and the syllabus, remember, is readme.md. And you can refer back there for the schedule for each lecture, suggested homework, and everything else for the class. If you have any questions or get stuck at any step and you can't find the answer on the internet, you're welcome to post on the Piazza page. It's PSTAT 199. And hope this helps.